The title of today's story is The Light Princess. So let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, a king and queen were blessed with a beautiful baby girl. They named her Princess Aurora. She had golden hair that shimmered like sunlight and bright blue eyes that sparkled with joy. The kingdom was filled with happiness, and everyone celebrated the birth of the Light Princess with great enthusiasm. However, there was an evil witch named Morwenna who lived in a dark forest near the kingdom. Morwenna was furious that she had not been invited to the princess's christening. Out of spite, she cast a curse on Aurora. The curse made the princess float in the air like a feather, preventing her from ever staying grounded. As Aurora grew up, she remained as light as air. She could float and drift around the palace and the gardens. At first, this seemed fun and magical, but soon it became a problem. Aurora could not walk on the ground like everyone else, and she often felt lonely because she couldn't play with other children normally. The king and queen tried everything to break the spell, but nothing worked. They consulted wise men, magicians, and healers from all corners of the kingdom, but no one could find a solution. One day, a brave and kind prince named Edmund heard about the Light Princess. He decided to visit the kingdom and see if he could help. When he arrived, he was welcomed warmly by the king and queen. Edmund met Aurora and was enchanted by her beauty and grace. Despite her floating, Edmund saw that Aurora had a kind heart and a bright spirit. He spent time with her, learning about her life and her struggles. Determined to help, Edmund went to the dark forest to find the witch Morwenna. He bravely faced many dangers along the way, including fierce animals and treacherous paths, but he did not give up. When he finally found Morwenna, he asked her to lift the curse. The witch laughed and said she would only lift the curse if someone could find a way to make Aurora stay on the ground without using any magic. Edmund returned to the palace and thought hard about what Morwenna had said. He spent even more time with Aurora, understanding her feelings and noticing her reactions. One day, he realized that whenever Aurora was deeply happy or felt love, she would come closer to the ground, even if just a little. With this realization, Edmund came up with a plan. He organized a grand festival in the kingdom, inviting all the people to celebrate and share their love and happiness. The festival was planned to last for several days, with various activities like music, dancing, and feasting. The entire kingdom was decorated with flowers and colorful banners. During the festival, everyone sang, danced, and expressed their joy. Aurora was surrounded by so much love and happiness that she felt deeply connected to the people and the ground beneath her. As the festival continued, something magical happened. Aurora's feet touched the ground, and she stayed there. The spell was breaking. Overwhelmed with emotion, Edmund took Aurora's hand, and together they walked on the ground. The people cheered, and the king and queen wept with joy. Morwenna, watching from her dark forest, realized that true love and happiness were stronger than any curse. Seeing the power of love and community, she decided to lift the curse completely. She muttered an ancient spell, and the curse was broken forever. Aurora could now walk on the ground like everyone else. She and Edmund fell in love, and soon got married in a grand ceremony. The kingdom was filled with even more joy and light than before. Aurora and Edmund ruled with kindness and wisdom, always remembering the power of love and happiness. And thus, Aurora and Edmund lived happily ever after, bringing light and happiness to their kingdom for many years. The title of today's story is Snow White and Rose Red, although the name may remind you of another story, but this story is completely different. So let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a small village by the edge of a dark forest, there lived a poor widow with her two lovely daughters. The older daughter, with her fair skin and dark hair, was named Snow White. The younger daughter, with her rosy cheeks and bright red hair, was called Rose Red. Snow White and Rose Red were kind and gentle girls who loved each other dearly. They lived in a cozy cottage filled with love and laughter. They tended to their garden, took care of the animals, and helped their mother with daily chores. Despite their simplicity, they were happy. The cottage door was always open to friends and strangers alike. One cold winter night, as the snow fell heavily, there was a loud knock at the door. Rose Red quickly ran to open it, expecting a weary traveler. Instead, She found a huge, shaggy bear standing there, shivering from the cold. "Don't be afraid," the bear said in a gentle voice. "I won't harm you. I'm just cold and hungry. May I warm myself by your fire?" The girls, being kind-hearted, let the bear in. They gave him food and a place by the hearth. Their mother, seeing the bear's gentle nature, allowed him to stay the night. From that night on, the bear came to their cottage every evening. The girls would talk to him, comb his fur, and share stories. The bear became their good friend. As winter turned to spring, the bear announced he had to leave. "I must guard my treasure from the evil dwarf who roams the forest," he explained. Snow White and Rose Red were sad to see him go, but wished him well. One day, while the girls were gathering flowers in the forest, they heard a cry for help. They followed the sound and found a dwarf with his beard caught in a tree trunk. Despite his rude and ungrateful behavior, the kind-hearted girls freed him. The dwarf vanished without even a thank you. This happened several times. Each time the dwarf was in some kind of trouble. And each time Snow White and Rose Red helped him, only to be met with ingratitude. The girls didn't understand why the dwarf was so mean, but they continued to help him out of the goodness of their hearts. One evening, as the girls were returning home, they saw the dwarf again, this time being attacked by a bear. They recognized the bear as their friend. The dwarf was trying to steal the bear's treasure. Seeing the girls, the dwarf screamed, "Help me! Save me from this beast!" Seeing the girls, the bear roared and said, "Girls, stop! This dwarf is an evil creature. He has stolen my treasure by using magic and deceit. All his strength is hidden in his beard." Saying this, with a strong blow, the bear knocked the dwarf down. Snow White showed cleverness and cut off the sow's beard with the knife she kept. The dwarf disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving behind heaps of gleaming treasure. As the smoke cleared, the bear began to transform. He transformed from a scruffy bear into a handsome prince. "Thank you for your kindness," said the prince. "The evil dwarf cursed me to live as a bear until I could defeat him. Your friendship and courage gave me the strength to finally break the curse." The prince explained that the dwarf had stolen his treasure and cursed it out of jealousy. Snow White and Rose Red were surprised by this story. The prince, who was now free, asked the girls to come to his kingdom. "You have shown true kindness and bravery," he said. "I would be honored to have you as my guest." Snow White, Rose Red, and their mother accept the prince's invitation. He traveled to her beautiful kingdom, where he was welcomed very happily. The prince's palace was grand, and the people were kind and welcoming. Snow White and Rose Red were treated like royalty. The prince fell in love with Snow White's gentle nature and kind heart, and they soon got married. Rose Red, because of her bright spirit and adventurous nature, found love in the prince's brother, who was equally kind and brave. Their mother, satisfied with her daughter's happiness, lived peacefully in the palace. The kingdom flourished under the rule of the prince and his new family. The kingdom remained a place of peace and prosperity, full of laughter and love. And they all lived happily ever after. The title of today's story is The Sleeping Beauty, so let's start the story. In a kingdom nestled among rolling hills and ancient forests, there lived a king and queen who had longed for a child for many years. At last, their wish was granted when a beautiful baby girl was born. They named her Alice, which means noble, for she brought light and joy to their lives. To celebrate the birth of Princess Alice, the king and queen hosted a magnificent feast. Nobles and peasants alike were invited from all corners of the kingdom. There was music, dancing, and feasting throughout the night. 3 wise fairies from distant lands were also invited to bless the newborn princess with gifts. The first fairy bestowed upon Alice the gift of beauty, ensuring that she would grow up to be the most beautiful maiden in all the land. The second fairy granted her the gift of kindness, filling her heart with compassion for others. But just as the third fairy was about to give her gift, an unexpected guest arrived at the feast, an evil fairy who had not been invited. Angered by the oversight, the evil fairy cursed Alice. "On your 16th birthday," she proclaimed, "you shall prick your finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die." With a cackle, she vanished into thin air, leaving the king and queen and their guests in shock and despair. The third fairy, who had not yet given her gift, stepped forward. Though she could not undo the curse, she could soften its effect. Instead of dying, she said, "Alice shall fall into a deep sleep that will last for 100 years. And during that time, the whole kingdom will sleep with her until a truly loving prince comes along." Determined to protect their beloved daughter, the king and queen ordered all spinning wheels in the kingdom to be destroyed. They forbade anyone from spinning thread or yarn. The fairies, with their magic, concealed the princess in a secluded tower deep within the forest. There, she would remain hidden and safe until her 16th birthday had passed. Years passed swiftly, and Princess Alice grew into a beautiful and kind-hearted young maiden. She was unaware of the curse that had been placed upon her at birth. The fairies raised her in the tower, teaching her about the wonders of nature, music, and art. Alice's laughter filled the air, and her kindness touched the hearts of all who knew her. On the eve of her 16th birthday, Alice felt a strange restlessness in her heart. She longed to explore beyond the walls of the tower, to see the kingdom that lay hidden in the forest. Unbeknownst to her, the evil fairy had been biding her time, waiting for this very moment. Disguised as an old woman, the evil fairy ventured into the forest. There, she stumbled upon the tower where Alice had been hidden away. Using her dark magic, she lured the princess into a room where a spinning wheel lay hidden beneath a dusty cloth. Intrigued by the strange contraption, Alice approached the spinning wheel. As she reached out to touch it, the evil fairy's curse was fulfilled. Alice pricked her finger on the spindle and fell into a deep, enchanted sleep. The fairies, alerted by their magic, rushed to the tower, but it was too late. Devastated by their failure to protect Alice, the fairies cast a powerful spell over the entire kingdom. A thick forest of thorns grew around the castle, shielding it from the outside world. There, Alice and her people slept without interruption for 100 years, waiting for the day when true love would awaken the princess. Years turned into decades, and decades into a century. The kingdom became lost to time, a forgotten tale whispered only in the oldest of stories. Yet legends have a way of enduring, and so it was that a brave young prince named Louis heard of the Sleeping Beauty hidden within the enchanted castle. Guided by dreams and the whispers of ancient voices, Prince Louis journeyed through the thick forest of thorns. With the blessing of the fairies, who gifted him with a sword and shield, he fought his way through the tangled vines until he reached the castle gates. Inside, he found the castle shrouded in silence and darkness. Cobwebs hung from the walls, and dust covered every surface. As he climbed the winding stairs to the highest tower, his heart beat with both fear and hope. At last he came upon the chamber where Alice lay sleeping, her beauty undimmed by the passage of time. He was instantly captivated by Alice's beauty. Seeing her fast asleep, Prince Louis leaned forward and gently took her hand. At that moment, a magical glow surrounded them, and Alice woke up from her deep sleep. Her eyes opened and she looked at the prince with surprise and gratitude. As the curse broke, so too did the spell that had bound the kingdom in sleep. From every corner of the castle, the king and queen, the fairies, and the people of the kingdom awoke. Joyous cries echoed through the halls as they celebrated the return of their beloved princess, and the dawn of a new era. With Alice's awakening, peace and prosperity returned to the kingdom. The thorny forest melted away, revealing once more the rolling hills and ancient forests that had surrounded the castle for so long. Prince Louis and Princess Alice were married in a grand ceremony, uniting their kingdoms and their hearts. And so, Princess Alice's tale became a legend, passed down through generations as a testament to the power of love and the enduring magic of fairy tales. The title of today's story is Princess Roseburg, so let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a magical kingdom called Roseburg, there lived a kind and brave princess named Aisha. Princess Aisha had long flowing hair as dark as midnight and eyes that sparkled like stars. She was loved by everyone in the kingdom for her kindness and courage. One sunny morning, while Aisha was strolling in the royal garden, she found a mysterious glowing rose. The rose was unlike any she had ever seen. Its petals shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. Curious, Aisha reached out to touch it. As soon as her fingers brushed the petals, a soft voice spoke. "Princess Aisha, you have found the enchanted rose of Roseberg. I am the fairy guardian of this rose. It holds great magic and can grant you 3 wishes. Use them wisely, and they will bring great joy to the kingdom." Aisha was amazed and excited. She carefully picked the rose and took it back to the palace. She thought about her first wish and said, "I wish for a magical adventure that will help my kingdom." Instantly a portal appeared before her, shimmering with light. Aisha stepped through it and found herself in a beautiful but strange land. The air was filled with the scent of flowers, and the sky was painted with shades of pink and purple. A friendly unicorn named Luna greeted her. "Welcome, Princess Aisha. I am Luna. I will be your guide on this magical adventure. We must find the crystal of light to save your kingdom from the darkness that is approaching." Aisha and Luna set off on their quest. They traveled through enchanted forests, crossed sparkling rivers, and climbed mystical mountains. Along the way, they met many magical creatures, including talking trees, singing birds, and playful fairies. Each creature gave them clues and helped them on their journey. One evening, as they were resting by a glowing stream, a dark shadow loomed over them. It was an evil sorcerer named Zoltar, who wanted to steal the crystal of light for himself. Zoltar had a fearsome dragon with him, its eyes burning with malice. "You will never find the crystal of light, princess," Zoltar sneered. "It belongs to me." Aisha, though frightened, stood her ground. "We will not let you take it, Zoltar. The crystal of light is meant to bring peace and happiness to the kingdom." Zoltar laughed wickedly and commanded his dragon to attack. Luna, the brave unicorn, charged at the dragon, using her horn to deflect its fiery breath. Aisha remembered the enchanted rose and her remaining wishes. She quickly wished for the strength to defeat Zoltar and protect her friends. In a flash of light, Aisha was surrounded by a magical shield. She fought bravely, using her new strength to fend off the dragon. With Luna's help, they managed to defeat Zoltar and his dragon. Zoltar, realizing he was beaten, fled into the darkness, never to be seen again. With the danger gone, Aisha and Luna continued their journey. They finally reached the Cave of Wonders, where the crystal of light was hidden. The cave was filled with dazzling crystals that reflected the light in beautiful patterns. At the center of the cave was the crystal of light, glowing with a pure, radiant light. Aisha carefully picked up the crystal of light and held it close. She used her final wish to return home to Roseburg with the crystal. In an instant, she and Luna were back in the palace garden. The crystal's light spread throughout the kingdom, banishing the darkness and bringing joy and prosperity to everyone. The people of Roseburg rejoiced, and Princess Aisha was honored. She placed the enchanted rose and the crystal of light in the palace's hall of treasures, where they would be safe and remind everyone of the magical adventure that saved their kingdom. Luna, the unicorn, becomes Aisha's loyal friend, and together they continue to protect Roseburg and embark on new adventures. And so Princess Aisha lived happily ever after, her heart filled with the magic of her courage and the love of her people.
The title of today's story is The Princess and the Pea, so let's start the story. In a land far, far away, there was a magnificent kingdom with a grand castle. Inside the castle lived a handsome prince who was deeply unhappy. He longed for a true princess to share his life and his kingdom, but his search had been fruitless. The kingdom was teeming with fair maidens, all claiming to be true princesses, yet none seemed genuine. The prince journeyed across the kingdom, meeting every supposed princess, but he returned home disheartened each time. "It's impossible to tell if these are real princesses," he lamented to his father the king. "Be patient, my son. When the right one comes along, you'll know," the king replied with a wise smile. The prince nodded, feeling a bit more hopeful, and retired to his chamber. That evening, a ferocious storm swept through the kingdom. Thunder roared, lightning streaked across the sky, and rain pounded the castle roof like the clamor of 1,000 charging horses. Amidst the tempest, there was a loud knock at the castle door. The king, donning his robe, opened the door to find a soaked, shivering young woman standing before him. "I am a true princess," she declared. "May I please have some dry clothes and a place to rest for the night?" The king welcomed her in. "She claims to be a true princess," he informed the old queen mother. The queen mother remained silent but thought to herself, "We'll soon see about that." The queen mother gave the princess a nightgown and said, "Put this on while I prepare your chamber." She then set to work in a most unusual manner. First, she stripped the bed of its covers, sheets, and mattress. Next, she placed a single garden pea on the bedstead. On top of the pea, she piled 20 mattresses, separating each layer with a soft eiderdown quilt. Finally, she replaced the bedclothes on the top mattress. When the princess entered, the bed was so high off the ground that she needed a ladder to climb into it. She ascended the ladder, got under the covers, and blew out her candle. At breakfast the next morning, the queen mother asked the princess, "My dear, how did you sleep?" "Oh, not well at all," the princess replied. "I appreciate your hospitality, but something hard and uncomfortable beneath the mattress kept me awake all night." "My word!" exclaimed the queen mother. She turned to the prince and said, "I believe we have found your true princess. Only a real princess could be so sensitive as to feel a single pea through 20 mattresses and 20 quilts. You must marry her at once." The prince was ecstatic. He turned to the princess and asked, "Dear princess, would you honor me by becoming my wife?" Blushing, the princess finished a mouthful of cereal and replied, "On one condition." "Anything," said the prince eagerly. With a cheeky grin, she said, "Promise me, dear prince, that from this day forward, any pea that enters this castle is solely for eating, not for sleeping upon." The prince chuckled and said, "I promise." And so, they lived happily ever after, with not a single pea causing discomfort in the castle again.